Hello and welcome everybody to HeroesHype Live, episode number 26. I can't believe it's 26 already. We're already 5 weeks in to the Open Division season, and it's pretty incredible how fast time has gone. As always this week, I have my co-host Dunkstick to my left. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for having me on once again. I always appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. It's always a pleasure to have you. And this week, I have a very special guest with me. If you don't know who he is, I'm a little surprised, at least coming from where I'm from. But LC Gamer, longtime Blizzard gamer, and great heroes of this run play, in my opinion. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Just happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that you could be on the show today. It's always good to have players, especially on, to talk about their experiences, their games, and what they think of what's going on in the amateur scene. So,
right.
Speaking of that, we're gonna dive right into it. No wasting time. We're gonna talk about EU Open Division right away.
Yeah, we had some interesting upsets and followed by a return to the top by Team Singularity.
Yep, and we'll start with them. The first semifinal was them, Team Singularity versus Worst Positioning. And Worst Positioning, I think, if I remember correctly seeing it in Discord, was Team Oink, who didn't end up ever getting points, so it didn't really matter. But it's the same team, and they looked good, I think, when they were under the old name. If I'm wrong, please correct me, viewers and whoever. But game one looked pretty convincing, in my opinion, from Singularity. And then game two, unfortunately, Worst Positioning had a DC and chose to forfeit the game.
Sounds like his computer was in the worst position. Team Singularity, I think this is their first week without dropping a single game. Good on them. They did get a bye straight into the round of 16. So, I mean, it helps to have the most points at this late in the season. Yeah. On their way, they took down Grief Gaming, Valhalla, of course, Worst Positioning. And in the finals, they actually took down Granite Gaming, who I've been a big fan of throughout their run.
And Granite Gaming looked especially good this week, too. Compared to last week, when they lost in the first round, it was like a completely different team. So I'm very happy to see that Granite Gaming went all the way to the final. Speaking of them, they were in the other semifinal against a surprise, in my humble opinion, the Undergods. Undergods has been a consistent team throughout the entire season, but they never really made it even to the round of 8 before. They'd always been knocked out in the earlier rounds. So it was really good to see them kind of break through the rocks, I guess, break through the ceiling, and make it to the semifinals this week. The big surprise, though, was they beat the defending champs, Teraz Radzina.
Yes, sir.
Now, I know you paid attention to that game, especially, Dunk. What did you think of that one?
So, I want to say it. I just don't think the Undergods won that series if Teraz Radzina respected them in the draft. And I can't say I've seen any of their other games from the previous weeks, unfortunately. They did dip out in the round of 16, it looks like, every week until now. And their drafts were very normal, in my opinion. Weren't really seeing anything that was like too out of the ordinary. We did get to see a Cassia in their first game, and they did on VOE, that is, and they did run a Leoric with Gul'dan and Genji and Alexstrasza on Infernal Shrines. But overall, I think it was more or less the draft from Teraz Radzina in both games that really spoke volumes to me about how seriously they took those games. Dahaka being the only CC against Acacia, and I want to say they actually had Genji in the first game as well. it just seemed kind of disrespectful. It's like they didn't think that they'd ever be in the position where they were going to be behind, trying to defend or not being able to take a fight. And yeah, I'm checking it right now. Yeah, it was Genji and Cassie in the first game. Going into the second game, I'm like, okay, you lost the game. Time to take it seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And they pulled out a composition that I don't think I've ever seen before. And this is on Infernal Shrines, where I feel like you need a little bit of wave clear. You need a little bit of emphasis on it. Their team consisted of Stukov, Medivh, Chromie, Diablo, and Blaze. Excellent soul inner, excellent poke. I feel like they had a lot of engage, obviously portals into a Diablo dash. And it was into a Gul'dan, Genji, ETC, Alexstrasza, and then a Leoric. They handily won probably the first 10 minutes of the game. Basically what happened is Leoric hit level 16. He got his reset on his Wraithwalk, as well as the damage reduction.
Mm-hmm.
And Terraz never won a fight from then on. Literally, Leoric would just split push, pull the entire team towards him, and escape with like 20% of his life. At no point did they have any kill pressure anymore on the Undergods. And then it just became a slow choke. I think it was 5 forts to 0 forts at like level 24. It was something ridiculous like that because TR never had didn't have the build or the powers to actually clear buildings and make moves towards the core. And it was a very slow choke at that point. And it spoke volumes to me about how I feel like they responded to the Undergods. But I mean, good on the Undergods. Post 16, when they got those talent tiers, they played it so well. They slow played it, caught back up, and ended the game in a terrific fashion. So,
yeah,
good on them. They took down the third and fourth week champion. So,
yeah, I'm always happy to see new teams just coming up and taking games or series off of the supposed best teams in the league. It just shows that the scene is getting better as a whole, and like you can't underestimate anyone, which it seemed like Terraz did. They were maybe looking forward to the next round, like, oh, this should be a walkover. Let's just think about what Granite's going to do, or Manticore, because that would have been their next match. So,
yep.
So moving on, third place, worst positioning ended up beating Undergods 2-0. I didn't get a chance to watch those games, but I want to think that worst positioning, who honestly looked better against Singularity than Undergods did against Granite. And it probably was an easier game, or easier series for them. So looking at the finals, it was Singularity versus Granite. It was very similar. I think it was a one-sided series. Granite looked good, but never did they look like they had control of a game, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Especially on the Towers game. Actually, no, they were doing pretty well on the Towers game for a while, and then Singularity just started winning team fight after team fight, and was it Carsey that was on the Genji? I think it was Carsey on the Genji. Just started tearing people apart. So I'm happy to see Singularity kind of regain that crown. I'm not biased here because I don't. But
and we talked about this a little bit. In both weeks that Singularity lost earlier in the rounds, they faced Terraz Radzina.
Yep.
And I said maybe Terraz Radzina is just like their kryptonite. For whatever reason, this team pops up and they lose to that team. And LZ, maybe you can pop into this. Do you guys have a team that you just, for whatever reason, lose to all the time?
Yes,
it's not even like...
absolutely. Absolutely. And they don't make it far in tournaments either. So if we dodge them from round 1 or 2, like we're...
if you don't mind us asking, who is it?
Oh, you're muted.
Rip? Yeah,
I actually hit the button. Sorry, I hit the button. All right, so I absolutely have a team that just destroys us every time. And thank God they don't make it past round 1 or 2. It's Heyoon's team, right?
Agazuwa.
My God, I don't even know the name of the team, what team their name is, but I'm just like, did we hit them? Did we miss them? Like, because God knows they're gonna like choke all us, and they have like 1,000 cheese strategies that we literally like just can't beat them in scrims. And it's like, all right, well, I don't know.
Oh man, that's great to hear. That's great to
You
hear.
go from beating a team that plays straight up or something, and then we couldn't do it. Just couldn't do it. So, but it's like it's weird too because it's like other teams also cheese, but it's like we don't have problems versus them. But for some reason, it's like they have the number.
They just know how to play the cheese better.
Yeah.
Than any other team.
There you go.
It sounds like they're pretty Gouda.
Or maybe it's like you've seen it enough from them.
They're impressive.
That you know how to handle every other team. But it's just they've figured out against you. So
I mean, it's pretty much from my history of gaming. Like a lot of teams always have that like one or two people that like just have their number, right? It's like that in StarCraft. It's like that in HOTS. It's like,
Yeah.
It's probably a lot like that in HGC too, right? Like term results are probably very different than the actual like when the match matters. So.
Yep.
Yeah, we saw that especially with like Fnatic and Dig. Fnatic for a long time could not beat Dig. Like no matter how good they were, they couldn't beat Dig. And well, then they broke that barrier. So
it's true.
So now the standings are updated. We have Singularity sitting at the very top at 495, and they have a very good distance between the second place team. Manticore is still in second place because they've had those 2 second place finishes in the weeks 1 and 2. They've gone out in the round of 8 every other week since, which has kept them up, but they're losing ground fast. And they're sitting at 300. Right behind them is Terraz at 290. So Manticore has to pick it up or they're going to be losing their seeds quickly. Got Team Go at 285. Epunks is in 5th at 225, and they were knocked out by worse positioning in the second round this week. So that was just unfortunate for them, I think.
Yeah, I've watched them quite a few times on the stream. They look pretty good.
Yeah.
Yes, they do.
I especially, I've talked about it a lot, but I love their solo Dahaka warrior composition the most. And I think they play that especially well.
I don't think I've ever seen that, but I have seen some of their play.
We're going to have to find you a link, my friend.
Yeah, you're going to have to link me to that.
We got Granite Gaming in 6th.
It's next level.
At 215. They obviously looked really good this week. I'm hoping that going into week 6, in a couple weeks from now, actually, they keep that up and don't lose any momentum. Valhalla has been pretty consistent. Just competing in every cup. They've made it all the way up to 4th place. The lowest they finished was top 16. So they're getting points every week, but they're not like gaining exponential amounts of ground. And then rounding out the top 8 is Clausen's Army, who went out in the round of 16 this week, but have had 2 top 4 finishes.
Yep.
So I'm wanting to see if they can hold that spot, or if someone's gonna, come up and just snatch it from underneath them. And I think worst positioning might be that team, honestly. Yep. So,
and EU, with how well the top 8 teams have been doing week to week to week, it is a very hard region to break into that top 8 for the Crucible. These teams are the numbers. The second place team to the 5th place team are all within about 85 points. That's one bad week away from you losing your spot. I mean, Manticore, if they don't make top 4 this next week, will lose their second place spot, which they've had since week 1. And I honestly think that Terra's, Razino, or Team Go can do that to them.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting not next week, because obviously we're going to the break, but in a couple weeks, when everyone comes back, hopefully refreshed, ready to play. No one's throwing anymore. Going to play these games as well as they can, and we're going to have a very competitive EU region.
So to kind of transition from EU to North America, I want to bring up a hero that we saw a lot of this week, and I think he's pretty good, but I didn't expect to see him be played this much, and that would be Thrall. Now, when we did see him played, all but like 2 games, he went Crash Lightning. And being someone that loves Thrall, I never really thought that talent was good. And just it was kind of like a trap talent.
Yes.
But now with the bounce change, the bounce buff, I think I've seen a lot of players picking that up, and it's really become an actually good talent. And I want to know from your perspective, LZ, why do you think that is?
I mean, I think it's a very niche talent. Like, I wouldn't say it's a very good talent, but the reason it's good is because it can transform Thrall into like one of the best pokers in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like teams that want to play fights really slow, like it can just ruin a solo heal, you know, like an Uther or something, right? Like somebody that can't heal up a lot of damage, and so in that regard, it becomes just like god tier. So, and then the bounce change made it that much easier to stack, right? So you'll see it on some maps like PoE or, you know, Volskaya.
Yeah, you're not going to see it a lot on like rotation heavy maps,
right? You're not going to see it on like Dragonshire and stuff. Like I don't think it's realistic to get your stacks, because you really need stacks pretty quick for it to like start adding up. You need to get to 20. That's the hot number, right? Once you get to 20, it's like really easy to stack because they always prioritize heroes, but. Up until there, like if you're slow about it, then Thrall, that almost becomes a dead talent or a dead pick, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like Thrall's kit is not like, it's all right. It's not amazing though, and it's like if he's not able to really like fill that role, then there's probably another pick that was better than him, right?
Yeah.
So.
I agree with that. No, I definitely think that you're right in that regard. And we talked about the numbers a little bit on it. I think with the 16 talent and that talent fully stacked, we're somewhere upwards of 900 damage per bounce. And that's just insane on a 7-second cooldown.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
But, you know, he does have, in my opinion, two of the best ults in game for teammates, you know, Sundering and Earthquake.
I think he actually is one of the few characters that has two completely viable ultimates, right? Like, I don't feel like a lot of heroes actually even have that, you know? Like, some of them are like, really niche. Like, I guess, like, you could look at Sonya and be like, well, Leap's good sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But I think with Thrall, like, both his ultimates are actually legitimately good. So.
Yeah.
And it's all about, I think, the enemy team comp. Or maybe... it depends.
I would say it's
comp
like a combination of the enemy team comp and, like, what your team comp does, right?
Like... We remember, I think it was late 2016, the R meta, which was Thrall and Diablo, and you just Earthquake APOC and kill everyone. Yep. And
there was also a time where Sunder would combo into APOC too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
And that was way back before it got nerfed into the ground. Right. Those were the glory days. But anyway, we'll move on to NA. And the first semifinal we had was EID versus Trade Value. Now, EID, if anyone doesn't know, is Nesper's team.
Nesper
Battery, Dark Chimera. And I am forgetting the other two right now. Zainhide, and I always forget.
Suryu or something? Like Suryu?
No, he's on
Battery, Nesper, Mist, Zainhide, and Dark Chimera.
Mist, because he just joined. Mist just joined last week. And they took out SMV, who had just picked up Talking Trees and Humming in the round of 16, and apparently they were very quick. So the stream that I was on, we followed King's Gambit, and they went up against Trade Value in the round of 16, and Trade Value handled them pretty well. I was very impressed with Troy's Greymane, especially. I think that's his top hero by a good margin at this point. He plays it very aggressively, but he plays it smart at the same time. Like, if he's gonna die, he will look to get the best trade possible for his team. And I think that has helped, along with how aggressive Stray plays, boost their team up to the top 4, top 5 of NA. So Trade Value ended up taking the series 2-1, and EID won the first game pretty handily. Trade Value won the second game quite easily. Like, they were both 3-level leads at the end, and then Trade Value won a very arduous game 3.
Wasn't it the TLV? Is that what?
Yeah, that was the TLV game.
Right. Okay.
And it was just arduous because it was like, they can't do anything.
Yes.
Yeah, because they last rotation the Vikings,
Right.
And Trait Value, I think, also pulled out Cho'Gall twice up until the finals.
Throughout the tournament,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, they definitely play it.
And one of them was Vikings. I think it was Vikings and Cho'Gall. Maybe that was a different team, but it definitely shows that they have some interesting strategies to take games off of people. So
they have a large playbook, I guess you could say.
Yeah, for sure. So Trey Valley ended up going to the finals, and on the other side was LZ, your team, Nightcare, against Rouge O, which I have been told that's how you pronounce it.
That is
basically
red and gold.
Red and gold, yeah. I have come up with a shorter name, RNG.
Okay.
Just for anyone that wants to use it, you're free to.
You can just call them Laval like everyone else in
or
the Torbs
do
does.
that too.
It's their school.
So you guys ended up beating them 2-0. And the first game was on Tomb.
The first game, oh my god.
The first game, honestly, I think they were winning for maybe
I would say like
maybe you were winning to start. I think you were winning like the early game.
We had the advantage to like level 5 or 6.
And then they just started.
They got the first turn in, and they were able to pretty much snowball their victory, and we weren't able to win a team fight. Mm-hmm. And that's like the most helpless feeling is when you get that phase, and it's like, all right, well, we don't have the tools to actually win a team fight like down 2 levels, and so it became like we tried to get picks, but then they had the pick comp, right? They had the Alarak, they had the ETC, so. Like we were getting pulled into moshes. Like that's actually how I died and the snowball really started. Is I was behind the gate, mosh pit missed, and I got pulled in telekinesis into the mosh pit, and it was that helpless feeling where it's like we need interrupts and we don't have any interrupts, right? Like no one had anything, and so I just because I literally said oh I'm fine. He missed mosh, and then I got pulled into the mosh, and I was like wait a second, this isn't how it's supposed to go.
That sounds a lot like your game 1 against those guys.
Yes, it was actually. It's funny because I feel like we didn't play that well yesterday. As a whole, I feel like we were just kind of off our normal game or something. But man, it's the first few games are always the roughest for us. Usually we play better the longer we play. The more games we play, we just get more solid and more solid. But my God, those first 2 games versus those guys and the second day versus the other were literally losses, without a doubt. We won that play because Dackingor pulled off the most godly in my opinion play of the game, right? Blinked over, got a huge Twilight Dream. We won a 4v5 fight or something. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because the support player Harry Blob was using flaming swipe and got caught in the boss stun. And then Dak comes in with the Astro Communion and just blows everyone up.
Yep.
And
that definitely
that's one of the worst boss throws I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was actually one of the best boss throws I've ever been a part of. It's not on my side, right? It was just 3 days ago. We were in a scrim and we called to just start boss, to bait it out. And so we hit it a couple times and the whirlwind pushes me all the way to the corner. Absolutely helpless. Could do nothing, right? And and so that's what I was thinking. I was like, all right, we just need that to happen to them, right? And I've been a part of this just on the other side.
And you didn't have Grayman with you, so it's well,
right.
We either, you have to do the play because that's the only way you can win at that point.
We're gonna lose. We're down to no building, so
yeah, you didn't have the top keep, so it basically if you lost the boss, keep, so. You lost the game. So it's the only play you can make, and it ended up working out. So
yeah. Pretty lucky.
And then we go into game 2, and I think this was the game. Did you have Hanzo this game? Not you, but did your team have Hanzo?
What map was it, man?
Towers of Doom.
Towers of Doom. Yes, we had Hanzo.
Yeah. So I'm remembering the arrow from the core hitting Tyrrell to end the game because that last team fight lasted for I think a good 3 or 4 minutes, just kind of running around.
Yeah. It was that was when we went to double support. I'm pretty sure we went Alex.
Yep. I think you were on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was on Karazim.
Yeah, and your Karazim has been scary to say the least. I think. At least that's what the casters have been saying. So.
Yeah, I mean, my Kerosene is pretty good. I'm not good at. I'm still like not amazing at like palming full blow up comps, right?
Yep.
Like, and that's like very popular now, you know. And they have like gray mains and Genjis and like or double gray mains, right? Like they have Abba or something. And so like those things I'm still not great at, or there's still lots of room for improvement. But as far as killing people, I'm pretty good at Kerosene.
Yeah, but with you on Kerosene, it brought enough damage, and then you had enough sustain with the Alex as well.
Right.
So you were able to I think this was when Rouge had the Tyrande, or was that in the finals?
They didn't get Tyrande versus us.
I'm trying to remember who played
that was
Tyrande.
A trait value that prioritized Tyrande in their first set.
Yeah, it was Alex on Tyrande. That's what it was. So
right,
it's a good transition to the finals.
Sure.
So yeah, that series was another 2-1, and I thought that was quite close overall.
Yeah,
I thought Alex's play on Tyrande was very strong, complementing Surround and Muradin really well, and that's a classic combo, obviously.
Yeah, it's been around old as time.
But you forget about it almost, like, because you don't see Tyrande very often.
It's true. It's not popular. You don't ever think about you think, you know, like, oh, well, they have ETC, but they don't have Malfurion or something, right? So you think like, oh, they don't have that like stun follow-up, that blow-up, and then the Tyrande pick comes out, and you're like, okay, they actually have that same thing, but now that target's going to get marked for 25%. You know?
Except now it does more damage.
Yeah, except now it does more damage.
Mm-hmm. However, you guys ended up winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
So going into game 2 on Dragonshire, they picked Tyrande again.
No.
Oh, they didn't have Tyrande in the game 1. They only had it in game 3.
I'm fairly certain they didn't get Tyrande in any of our games because
they didn't,
saw
actually,
that they crutched it and I banned it out. So
no, actually, no, they didn't.
Okay,
have
no,
it in
I'm thinking
games.
of the last series. My bad. They had it in the semifinals against EID. That's
right.
what it was.
They had, but we got to watch that, so I saw that they're like crutching.
Because like I remember you banning out Tyrande and Cho'Gall in the same game.
Yes.
It's like those are some nice. You're not going to get anything from them. So you ended up winning the Battlefield game.
Right.
And then
we win the Battlefield game.
We moved on to Dragonshire, and I wish this had like Master League stats on it. Honestly,
you know what? I actually want to talk a little bit about that BOE game because that game was pretty incredible to watch. Yeah, that was your Thrall game. That was the game where you basically lost levels 1 to 20.
It's hard to say that. Like I would say we won 1 to 12 because we won the Immortals and we were ahead in levels. But we just we couldn't actually push with the Immortal because we actually just couldn't fight a team fight.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Then at level 20, and this is what's interesting about what your team has been kind of adapting to. And I saw because we followed you all night, so it was our second time seeing the Johanna pick at level 20.
Mm-hmm.
At level 20, picking up the Storm Barrier instead of Indestructible, which is like the go-to for I'd say about 90% of Johanna players.
Right.
25% shield.
Talent.
Yeah. 25%
Hero League mentality.
25% max health for 3 seconds on a 60-second cooldown that is reset by hitting blinds.
Right.
And you followed it with the upgraded Earthquake talent, which I believe is 10% max HP every time it procs, and it's like 4 procs every time you cast it, so it's like 40% HP.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You basically said, hey guys, we're unkillable, let's pick a team fight, and instantly wipe them and end the game.
Well, that's kind of what our comms were. It's like, all right, well, we're losing now. If we can get to 20, like, there's no way they're going to kill us.
Yeah.
Because I was the blow-up target every single time, and I think we had a Malf healer, and so he doesn't heal blow-up, right? And so that was the true struggle, and it was like, all right, well,
yeah.
It's all right, let's just get to... by the way, Earth and Shields is actually 15% of health.
Okay. Yeah,
and
so it's even more.
It's not not on Thrall though. It's just on
it's on the whole team. It's on the whole team.
Too.
Oh, it is. It's on Thrall too. Yeah.
I never picked that. I never get to 20 with Thrall anymore, so I don't remember what it says. But yeah, that was.
But I thought it was astounding because that's a team basically finding their win condition through like the darkness of like losing like those last few levels, which and like understandably like when you lose like the post 16 like fights and stuff, it's hard to come back.
Yeah.
You get this
especially in
like
PvE.
shoot, they're gonna hit 20. They're just gonna push with the immortal, and like we're just gonna lose. Like there's nothing we can do here.
Yeah.
And you
Just
guys
kind of
held
have to
on.
sit back and wait.
Yeah, you guys held
It's all
on,
about
and
poise.
it paid
boys.
off.
All about the poise.
Yeah, and that
So
was
great
the
play
game.
by you guys.
That was the game where I think it was my number one play of the week was Dak's Twilight Dream to end that game. I think he got like a 4 or 5 man Twilight Dream.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
it was like Hanzo, Arrow, Twilight Dream, like almost hit like instantly or something.
It was It was 4 targets for both.
It was
of them.
like
pretty
just
sick.
boom. Oh well, they're dead. I guess
Yep,
Nike
that's-
wins. So
Pretty much all that mattered. Yeah.
so going into game 2 on Dragonshire, how did you feel going into the game, knowing that you would just like kind of come back? And what do you think they were?
I don't know if I felt like
maybe-
we'd come back. I felt like, okay, so in our mindset, we thought we were going to win no matter what. Like that was how we were, right? We
Mhm.
thought we were going to play our best and we're going to win because I that's where I feel like we're better than like what we played there. If we played better, then we would have won. But like obviously the team we played against isn't bad or anything like that. I'm not trying to make it sound like that or like we're super cocky because we're not. I just think that you have to believe in yourself or you're already lost the game, right? Like
Mhm.
you have to believe that you can win or like there's no reason to even play.
Yeah, like you go in
Yep.
saying, okay, we're
So
just...
we went in.
execute.
I thought our draft was favored. We had like
Mhm.
I think we had Tracer, we had Johanna, Hanzo. Like I felt like our comp was superior as far as like the draft went. So I was like, okay, now all we have to do is execute. And then, it came to a lot of things where we were ahead for a large part of the game. We got DK, like a DK at like level 18 or something, and we literally got 2 towers off of it. Like I don't even know how we got a DK, how they burned a DK that fast, or how we got like nothing out of it, but it happened, and I was like, all right, well I thought that should have been a keep. And so then we had like an awful like communication in one of the fights where one person calls like, hey, we used too much stuff like out, and then another person calls like I have ult, go in. And so like we're literally just like we lost 3 people for that, we lost a keep, and it was like, all right, now how do we recover this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of made our way back with some really good like rotations and like picks and stuff, and then they did it. They hit the best ability in the game, the Stukov root silence combo. My God, if there's a talent busted, if there's a talent busted, it's like that one, right? Like boom, hit that on Dahaka, like character can't move, can't do anything, like dead.
Yep.
Good, it's good. So
You know what's so funny about that? When I saw that they had Thrall, ETC, and Stukov, I was like, they're gonna die to the Stukov combo.
yeah.
This is game 1 of those guys all over again. It's gonna be the Dahaka version, though.
That's literally the reason I was like, all right, we're not picking Tyrael into this. Like, we've seen this story before. It doesn't end well. Like 7 deaths or something.
Yeah, and it's just so crazy because there's so much range on it. He takes the level 1 talent where it gets bigger, and the cast time is so quick that even like just a power slide over you into the silence pool, it doesn't matter who you are unless you already have unstoppable. You do not escape it. And the unfortunate part for a Malfurion healer, yes, you have cleanse. It's a baby cleanse. It's not an unstoppable cleanse.
It's an awful cleanse. It's the most budget version of cleanse ever.
And it sucks because any other healer could have cleansed him where he could at least move or cast burrow or like.
If I would have drafted Lily, that game would have been different. That's all I'm saying.
And it sucks, but it's such a good combo right now. And I said it over and over on stream. It is toxic. And the reason it's toxic is because it silences you. And anything in HOTS that's toxic obviously warrants a silence.
Yep.
It's true. That's true.
So, going into game 3 on Volskaya, you would come off a close game in game 1, and then you just didn't play as well as you'd like to in game 2. So what was your mindset going into game 3? Knowing, well, at least from my perspective, you guys traditionally do pretty well on Volskaya.
Right. So that was the thing. So I do the drafting, but I don't really do the map picks or something. Like Taliant is the shot caller, and so he pretty much chooses what map, if he wants to be like first pick or if he wants to go to a specific map or something, right? Well, he wanted to bring him to the map, so we gave up first pick option. And so we knew that we weren't going to pretty much get Malfurion at that point, right?
Mhm.
Because Malf's so highly contested among, like, I guess the top 5 teams. And so, yeah. And so we went there. We got a draft that I feel like we should have been able. We had all the tools to win, but then we didn't execute, right? We didn't play. We played timid. That's how I would label it, right? Like,
Yeah.
we played scared, and because we played scared, it was like, what's where do you win, right? It's like we played to lose instead of playing to win. So
Yep. I remember specifically Jake saying, like, this is the first time that I've ever seen this team just look scared, almost.
Yep.
So.
Yep. I would say that that's probably the best analysis, like, or casting that you could probably do, because that's exactly how we were playing. We were playing scared when we had all the answers to be aggressive or, like, force engagements and stuff, right?
Mhm.
Like, they had Twilight Dream and a Muradin stun as the only mosh stoppers in the game, and I think we hit like 1 mosh the whole game, right?
Oh wow.
Like, we're playing timid. Like, he's been playing Johanna most of the night. This is the first time that the enemy team didn't pick the ETC. And so we got ETC, and he played the ETC kind of like a Johanna, like no flame. But that's kind of how, like, he was in that same mindset where he's like peeling for me and stuff. When I'm just like Murden jumped in, just slide him, let's kill him, right? Like, we have the Li Ming combo. I have Cassia. We have Last Right, Malthael. Like, Murden dies. They have a Malfurion healer, right? Like, how they keep him up. But we didn't really communicate that in the game to, like, change or fix our strategy or whatever we were doing that was obviously not working, and so it ended up making us lose the game. So, but that's the pretty much part of learning. That's the part of growing as a team. You find out what you're messing up on and you correct it, which I would say is the biggest and best thing this team does. Is they make mistakes, but then after we make mistakes, it's like, all right, well, let's correct that and let's try not to make it again. And we're pretty good at that.
And you know what? I'm going to bring up the game against those guys because I felt like that was such a good series to show your growth in draft and in how you played each game. Because essentially those guys said, we're going to play the same exact composition over and over again just because it worked so well that first game and the last game they had played before you guys.
Right.
That they knew how strong it was and how difficult it sometimes can be to overcome. In the first game, I'm sorry, they rolled over you. It wasn't
we got stomped.
Like, it wasn't even funny. And
absolutely.
I for a second I was like, those guys are gonna win this series. Like, if they play the next game as well as that, they're gonna win this. If Nightmare doesn't ban Stukov, they're gonna lose. And you guys did, and you won. It still was a little shaky, but you won it, and you did so in a way that showed off your comp's potential and what you needed to do. In the third game, you let them have what they thought they wanted and took what they needed, and it was beautiful. And I told you before the game started, your draft in that game perfectly displayed your team's potential because of the progressive like adaptation and learning and understanding and improving upon that each game. I gotta say, it's rough. I mean, you guys played, I think, 13 games total or 11 games total the other night.
Right.
That's, I mean, I think you went to the 3 games like 3 times.
Yeah,
so.
I think we went to 3 games. Like, well, no, we didn't versus Protected by the Way, right?
Yeah. Or Roche. Okay, yes.
I think
you
every
played,
other round we went to 3 games. Yeah.
You actually played 7. Okay, you played 7 games, but it was a long night. We started at a little late. It was like 6:10, and then we didn't finish till about 11:30. And we followed you guys the whole way, so like we saw everything. Right. And I feel like you guys lost that one game on Dragonshire, and you lost to that composition that I feel like you guys knew how to beat. You knew how to beat it. You were like, yeah, we understand this. Those guys gave us such a great warm up figuring out how to beat it.
Yeah.
And like I'm like fast forwarding through game 3, and like watching you guys play, I'm just saying you're just like, oh, we just can't lose. We just can't lose. We just can't lose. When you want to say we want to win, we want to win, we want to win.
Right.
Yep.
And there's such a difference in those 2 different aspects.
Absolutely. It's night and day. Like, in as far as like the way you play in that, it's like crazy.
It's night care and daycare.
It's night care and daycare, which is actually
so
pretty much what the name is.
To kind of wrap up our discussion on North America, we'll go over the standings. So still at the top, we have SMV and XD. And as we learned last night after the cup was over, XD has...
Took the top.
SMV took
XD
the
was
top,
number 1 for
because
weeks.
SMV played this week.
Yep.
XD is now second, but they have their original 5 back together. Trees and Hami have rejoined.
Right.
SMV announced today that they're looking for a new 5th, and Tiger JK has been removed from the roster, with Prismat and Iacona both rejoining the team.
I don't know, but anyone who likes drama, this is the season, boys.
This is the season.
Great.
This is
You guess you can call it
place to
open
be.
season.
Yeah, it's open season.
Open season on drama, boys.
So they're sitting at 410 and 405 respectively, and then at third is Nightcare at 250. So that's a pretty good gap right now. So they're pretty confidently in top 8 at least. Those two teams.
Right.
After Team Nightcare, it's Straight Value, who looked good going up to the finals, and as we said, won. Rouge AO is at 5th place, with the last 2 tournaments picking up 4th place finishes respectively. EID,
that's really good for a dorm team, by the way. I'm just gonna say, like,
they
really good showings.
Dunk, I think they are now number 1 in the dorm rankings.
That is correct. Laval is officially the number 1 seed after their win over Even with Evil last week and their performances in dorms as well as this week. They are officially everyone's number 1 team. Excellent play coming out of them. They've been very consistently playing to this level, and it's good to see because the standings have been pretty stale, and this is the first week we're seeing some very significant change for the power rankings and dorms.
Yep, for sure. So sitting at 6th place with 2 third place finishes in a row, the last 2 cups, is EID. Just so everyone knows that it's just EID. It's not even in death. It's just EID. And that's Nesper Battery, Dark Chimera, Zane Hyde, and I am forgetting the 5th again. We talked about this earlier.
Yeah. I don't remember.
It's not VFDG. That's your 5th.
No, that's he's our assassin player.
Mist, sorry. That's who it was.
Yes.
So they're
it's hard to remember him when you only see him play Abathur and he's not on screen. You know? Like that's the problem.
But he did join last week, and that's when they started getting the 3rd place finishes. So obviously that means there's a marked improvement over who they had before, and I'm looking to see if they can possibly break into that top 2 in week 6. So after them in 7th place, we have Gazua, which we haven't honestly seen a lot of. So they've been silently just staying in that top 8. You know, we haven't seen a lot of them on stream. So it's hard
as long as I'm not hitting them, I don't care, dude. It'll be wherever they want.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try and see if we can follow them next time and just see exactly how good this team is.
Hold on a second, Argy, don't you make the bracket?
Not for NA. I make it for
Oh man, we could have put them right next to Nightcare.
Don't do it.
One,
don't do
that's
it. I'm reporting.
unethical. 2, they can't legally. So in 8th place is Protected, by the way, who you guys beat this week, LZ.
Right.
Right. And that they've finished in the top 8 the past 3 weeks. So they're consistent, but they're not getting to where they want to be, obviously. So outside of that, Even with Evil did fall out of the top 8. They were in there before. They had a pretty bad week this week. I think, if I remember correctly. Let's see. I have the bracket here. They lost to Pride Stark, which is Protected, by the way. But I think that ended up being a forfeit. I think one of the members of Even with Evil was ill.
That is correct. Yes, Even with Evil did have to forfeit.
So that's unfortunate, but things happen, and I'm pretty sure they'll bounce back. Like they're number 2 in the power rankings.
That's correct.
So.
Right. I'm fairly certain they're mostly using Open as like practice, right?
Yeah.
Like training grounds for dorms.
It is very good practice because they never know which teams they're going to see, and it's really good practice for tournament play, tournament conditions. You just don't feel the stress in scrims that you would playing in a cup like this. And
I gotcha.
I do think that kind of practice is very healthy for them.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So Mantis said in chat that SMV won't be in first anymore with the roster changes.
That is correct.
But they will have they will lose the 40 points from this past week, but they will keep the points that they had previous.
Yeah, they will
that's the
still
4
very
original.
handily be the second number
Yep.
second spot.
But
Yeah.
XD will retake that first spot.
I mean, unless they like disband, like I don't see anyone overtaking XD and SMV in points just because they had such a nice early lead, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Like with the first like couple of cups, and so it's like they both those teams would have to go out in the round of like 8 every time from here on out to not be like 1-2.
Yep.
Oh yeah, no. I think pretty much they would have to basically not show up or like not get points at least each week
Right.
to fall out of the top 8, and that's only if our 7th and 8th place teams win every week from here on out.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like
Yeah.
that's how much of a lead they have. Like
Yeah.
over in Europe, it's just Singularity that has that kind of lead. Everyone else is very close.
Mhm.
Whereas over here in North America, the number 1 and 2 teams are like neck and neck. 3 and 4 are neck and neck, and then 5 and below are like neck and neck. But like if you're not already in the 3rd and 4th, you're gonna have a very hard time breaking into it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Well, our my team's 1-2 weeks. Week 1-2 was so good that we gained a lot of points from that. You know,
mhm.
we got like I think 10 points total out of the first 2 weeks.
That is correct. 10 exactly.
obviously the solution is don't let Glogan play Gazlo and Asmodan, and you win games.
Yikes.
So, with that, we're going to wrap up our talk about the Open Division and move our focus over to our guest tonight, LZ.
Whoa. What's up?
As many of you should know, LZ, you've been a competitive gamer for probably
Longer than you guys are probably born. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to say. Like, okay, so I am 32, started competitive gaming and traveling to tournaments when I was 16, right? So half my life now, I've literally done esports and like done like sponsored teams, been to like 20 MLGs, like,
Mhm.
you know, been to convention expos, done casting. Pretty much I've done it kind of all, right?
Mhm.
Different things.
Yeah, I remember watching you. I think it was 2010 MLG
Mhm.
in Orlando. I think that's where it was.
Yeah,
Watching you
that's
play when
definitely a
StarCraft 2
possibility.
just came out. So that's when I started following you. Anyway, but I want to focus more on Heroes. But we can
Right.
get into other stuff if you'd like. But I want to know specifically how the team came together. How was it formed?
Okay.
And where the name comes from.
Ooh, all right. So after this last open, a lot of people take breaks, or everyone fishes for these like imaginary spots or tryouts with the pro teams, right? Like,
Mhm.
you know what I'm talking about? Like everyone's like, "Oh, message me for these open tryouts," and I'm like, "They don't exist." Like I don't know. Like people get really offended when I tell them like, "Hey, it's not happening." You know, like
Yep.
they act like I'm attacking them or their skill level, and I'm like, no, they're physically just not going to give anybody a tryout. Like they just hop around teams. Like that's how it works. Like
Mhm.
I've been around the block a couple times. I understand how the system, you know, checks out. And so so everyone was like doing that. Well, Taliant was actually not doing that. He was messaging me on the side, which is just like, hey, I'm thinking about just trying out some people, lots of different people, and just like putting together a team slowly. Like, you know, he's like not the normal people that you see in all the opens, like people like no one's ever really like played in competitive or even heard of. He's like, you want to play? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm not doing anything, right? Like, I didn't have anything special on my plate. So I'm like, sure, I'll scrim around. Like, why not? And so we tried out a lot of people, and like, funny enough, like some of the people that are like on the best teams now actually played with us. Like Nintori, he was like our sub at one point, or not sub, our support at one time, and then he joined like XD, which is one of the best teams, right? And so we actually did run across like a lot of good talent actually, like VFDG or VDFG. I don't even know his 4 letters. By the way, in
VFDG.
order. I literally just call him V, right? I still can't get it right. So
Yeah.
like he's kind of a diamond in the rough player too, right? Like never heard of him, never seen him around, but he's like an actually really good player and a nice guy. So
Yeah.
so that's kind of how it started. The name came from because in our past team, which we played with, it was me, Jin, Legend, Elhaim, and Soyuzarian was our last like thing, right? When we got 3rd in the open last playoffs. Well, pretty much Taliant said that playing on the team kind of felt like a daycare. You know, he couldn't say stuff to some people. People would get offended, and people would start tilting. So he said he like had to walk on eggshells. That's how he felt, right? And so that's where the team came from, because he said that this team's not going to be a daycare, right? And so he used a play on words and called it night care.
Okay.
That is the true story. However, some people, I've heard some funny illustrations, because me and Talion are literally like probably two of the oldest gamers in the scene.
Yeah.
I'm 32, and I think he's like 33, maybe 34.
Yeah.
And so I hear this like, oh, they say that because they named them that because they're old and they go to sleep early or something, And it's like, what? Like,
okay, so my exact words is they're too old for daycare, so they go to night care.
Okay, is that it? Okay.
That's what I tell people. I assumed. I was like,
I don't
I'm pretty
really
sure
care.
Talient's super old.
I think no one is really connected to the name, and Talion is a troll. He literally named himself Main Tank Main and Slice Blade. Like, that man is a troll.
Yeah, I absolutely admire Talion.
Do you still call him Slice Blade in comms? I just want to know.
No.
Dang it.
No. I've always called him Talion, even when it was like Main Tank Main. I'm not calling that out. Like, hell no. That's freaking dumb.
Because I had a lot of experience in the amateur scene before I started moving towards production and stuff. And I used to be like, your team, like Talion's team used to be the team like Gazoa is to you as Talion has always been to me.
Yeah.
I don't think competitively I've ever beaten Talion on any team I've ever been on.
My God.
And
what a lucky man.
And it got to the point where Talion was like, Dunk, you're just never gonna beat me. I'm just better than you. Just realize that now and just accept it. And I did. Every time I see him, I'm like, I guess I just lost this game. Whatever.
Like,
It even happened in Hero League the other day. He's on the other team, and I'm like, I might as well just
You
leave
just
the game
get up out of the chair,
points.
walk away. Go do something else. Well, this game's over. So speaking of Talion, as you've mentioned, you and him have played a long time together at this point.
Right.
Close to two
This is
splits.
about 2.5 splits, actually. He came in at the last part of, like, I don't know, 2 splits ago or something.
Yeah. I remember you guys winning. I think it was the Tempo Storm Series 1.
Yes.
So I think that's when you started playing together. So
Right.
Making this team, how have the other 3 members meshed with you two and your play style?
Well, like I said, we tried out quite a few different people to like feel around and stuff. And so V just kind of meshed right off the bat. Like he's kind of like us, he already kind of has like a pretty stable life. Like nothing's crazy or anything going on, and he's like so chill. Like we all could literally feed 15 kills, and he'd just be like, "That's all right, guys. We're gonna get him next time." It's like he's like literally like I don't even think you could tilt him. Like I just don't think he's tiltable, And so that like alongside just being like a really good like player, like makes for a great teammate. So he was one of the first tryouts, and he stayed through the whole thing. Then we ran through like lots of different like top laners and stuff, and the person that was playing top lane for us at the time, which I think was Fats, was playing with us.
It's a funny name.
Yeah, it is a funny name. He couldn't make scrims one night, and I was like, I showed up, and Tyron's like, no problem, I got a sub. And it was Glogan. I was like, oh my God. Like I know Glogan, but I know him from like Hero League, right? Where it's like, hey guys, we need a tank, and he's like, no problem, I got it, and he locks Murky, right? Like that's the Glogan that I knew, and that's the Glogan I was expecting, and that's the Glogan I got. that is the Glogan I got. So he had, he's a good guy. First off, let me say he's a good guy. He's a good player too, and he's actually got a lot of things that most Hero Leaguers don't have. Like he has good communications, like comms. His comms are like pretty phenomenal, and he pretty much was bred for this role in a team.
Oh yeah.
If you think like top lane is the most hated role to really play, because you are so isolated. You're literally playing by yourself. Like you're listening to the team. Like some scrim blocks, you'll just hear stuff happen in the background, and you'll just hear ding, 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 and you're like, your team's dying, and you have no effect on it. Like you can't do anything about it. Like you're just actually sitting there in a lane that doesn't matter, just catching soak, right? Yep. And so Glogan was actually bred for this, because believe it or not, like somewhere in his brain, he enjoyed doing that in Hero League. Like that's actually his style of play in Hero League, and it's like blew my mind.
He
and so go ahead.
Oh, okay. So hearing you say that just makes me kind of think of Wubby.
Yes.
And Wubby's like No, I'm just not gonna come to you. You just come to me, and then we'll fight. Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Which is why if you don't have like a global like Dahaka or somebody can get down like quickly, like you almost never see them, right? Like they're double soaking, or they're doing they're playing their own little mini game, right?
Which is why it's important if he's on Malthael that he takes Pale Horse, so then he can actually rotate.
Yeah, always Pale Horse, always Pale Horse.
Yeah.
And actually talking with you, Dahl, like during the draft and like talking about your team in general, because Glogan is such a it's almost a big name. He is a big name now, essentially in the Heroes scene.
Yeah, his stream has like picked up and up and up.
Oh yeah, average of like 200 plus viewers all the time. He's doing really well.
He is the king of the memers, right? Like,
oh yeah,
that's how I would label him.
Give him the clamps, man. Give him the clamps.
Exactly. Like that's it.
Clamps.
As a new player to the scene, though, obviously, I don't believe he has any competitive experience outside of this season.
I would say 0. Completely.
Yeah. His play style is so macro oriented, even in Hero League, that I feel like that's such a boon to your team, because it's almost you don't actually have to teach him how to play the macro game.
Right.
He's that good. He just knows where to be.
Right. So he was pretty fast at learning everything that we like threw at him, like when it came to like rotations or understanding or anything like that. Like he just picked up on it like quick. The hardest part is that he actually played 0 beta heroes. I'm not even kidding. Like his hero pool day 1, like we've drafted Gazlo multiple times, and I'm just like, oh god, like what? Like why didn't I like get a sub for me today? That's how I felt. And it was like, and I'm not saying we lost all the games or something. We actually won some of the games to Gazlo, which was bad, in fact, right? And it forces bad behavior. We like beat the Storm team with Gazlo. It's like Gazlo's a god. Did you see me 1v3 them? And I'm like, yeah, I saw that.
Man,
that was sick.
So with that, how is he adjusted to playing the more meta heroes like Malthael and Dahaka?
I mean, he's still. If I could give him the option of playing the meta hero or picking the Probius or Gazlo or something, he would take the Gazlo every day, right? Like he would still pick that, even when he knows it might not be as good, just because he loves that. Like that, there's something in him that like he probably doesn't have clamp. He doesn't stream with a cam on, so he probably doesn't have hands and it's actually clamps, right? Like at the keyboard,
probably.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But if you give him something and you really explicitly tell him like, hey, need you to learn this hero, he will put time in. He'll play like 1 out of every 10 Gazlo games. He'll get one of those Blaze games in or something, and he'll start building up his hero pool. So he does get it done. Just not as fast as I would like sometimes, but I would take a consistent player on like 5 heroes than a non-consistent player on like 30, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
So how about Dak? How is he?
All right, so Legend left us, right? He stopped playing support after Cup number 2 because that went very poorly. And so he went to go make a team with Elhaim and then what's it called? What was the name? Hate to See It, right?
Yep.
They went and made Hate to See It, which lasted about a week and a half. Hate to see it. So Dak and Jor played with us in a couple of HeroesHype tournaments actually like a year ago. Like it was a long time ago. The way I know him is he's actually a friend of Elhaim, and then they came into our circle. He's actually a ex-professional what is the MOBA? I can't even think what it's called now.
Han?
No. It's even smaller and worse than that.
Paragon, Gigantic.
Okay, it's the Batman one, right? The DC when they closed it. You'll know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Infinite Crisis? Is that what it's called? Infinite Crisis?
Maybe. I don't remember the name. I know what you're talking about.
They made a MOBA.
The DC MOBA, okay? He went to like Worlds and like won like 100 grand or something, right? In that game. So he was like on the best team in that. He's a Challenger League player, so that's what he like normally plays. And we needed a support, and I was like, hey, I know you've never played support, but do you want to come play support for us? And he was like, I don't even own the heroes. And I'm like, we'll figure it out, like we'll draft around your like 2 supports that you own, and so that's actually how it started. Like 2 days later he played in an open with us after like he doesn't even have a support except for like Lucio at like level 5 or something, right?
Oh,
and
wow.
so like, I mean, it's bad. Like they were all level 1, you know. He's like, all right, so we're like playing versus Jin's team in scrims. He's like, so what's the build order with this? Like, what talents do I take? So we're like linking pages and stuff. Like, but he's like, he's a really good player and like smart, and like he comes from like a lot of MOBA background. So he's actually our team fight shot caller a lot of the time. Like when a lot of stuff's going on, like he controls the fight like a freaking orchestra, you know, like a symphony or something. It's crazy.
Nice.
He's constantly calling people like where to go, his heals, like keep going in, like he's always has something to say, type of thing.
And that's
his story. And
yeah.
He joined us. We started winning stuff, and I'm like, all right, you're staying. You know,
nice.
Feels good.
Nice.
Seems to check out.
You have earned your spot.
Exactly.
All right. So I want to close out the show tonight with one more question.
Okay.
So you've been playing Heroes since early alpha.
Right. I played day 3 alpha,
okay.
Actually, or day 2 alpha, yeah.
So and you played at BlizzCon 2014, correct?
I actually think that was 15, but it could have been.
Because 15 was when Cloud9 won.
Okay, then it was 14.
Was
right.
Like
okay, well, it's BlizzCon, right? So it's at the end of the year, right?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
so that makes sense.
So
it's November, so right.
You've been playing since then, and
right.
I want to know how have you liked the game? Like, has it gotten better in your opinion? Has it gotten worse? And how have you, as a player and as a person, grown with the game?
Okay. So as far as the game, I think the game has grown nicely. I mean, everybody would wish that it was a bigger scene or something, right? I came from StarCraft. Like StarCraft at one point was the biggest like RTS, or not just RTS, like biggest like esport game, you know, or like rivaled the top 2. So obviously, I wish that HOTS was more popular than it is. But as far as like what Blizzard's done with it, I think they've done a good job. I think some of the things they've added or something, if it would have just came sooner, it would have been so much better for this game, right? Like some of the stuff is not hard to integrate, like, and some of the stuff we still don't have. Like voice comms, I feel like should have been in this game a long time ago. This game is you know, a lot of times you're like piled in a death ball or something. Like you should have comms with this game. It almost feels like WoW Arena in a way or something, right?
Yeah.
Like you need comms. You need to know if people have cooldown. You need to know those type of things. Still can't player swap with people, right? Like in draft, like in Hero League and stuff. Like
one day we'll have the technology.
I keep saying that, and it's been like, like I said, since 2014, right? But overall, I do love the game, and I do love how much they've done to it, and like the 2.0 system that they came out with, and like I pretty much get all these free skins and cool things they put out. So it's great. Like I'm not complaining at Blizzard or anything like that. Just yeah. So and what was the second part of the question?
You missed the part about duo queue. Wait a second. Where do you stand?
Yeah, I love duo queue.
Oh,
sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm
bring it back.
Obviously,
the E-bros abusing the ladder. Let's go, Kevin. I see you in there.
The Reddit police are coming for them.
Yeah.
But the other part of the question was, how have you grown as a person, like outside of the game?
I mean, so in 2014, I got married. So when I first started playing this game, that was one of the reasons that I was drawn to this game more than StarCraft, because StarCraft is the loneliest game you will ever play in your entire life, right? Because you don't play with anybody, you don't have any interaction with anybody. You just hit the button for ladder game and you just play over and over and over and over. And so that was one of the things that like made me not like the game. And so when this game came out, I was like jumping on board right off the bat. I was like, oh snap, I can actually talk to people and play this game, right? Even though I had no MOBA background experience at all. You know, it's like I played League, I literally trolled. Like I was the Glogan of League of Legends, you know, except not Grandmaster or something. But yeah. So my life has pretty much just kind of elevated to a place where I'm able to do this, right? Like I don't have financial burdens on me. I'm not in debt. I'm not trying to like sneak in day jobs. I'm actually just like enjoying my life playing HOTS. You know what I mean? I do it because I love the game and not because I'm like trying to become rich in esports, because let me tell you, that doesn't exist for like 99.9% of people, right? Like even when you make like money, or you make the pro teams, or you make the signing contract stuff, like you still have to do it because you love it and you have passion for it and nothing else, right?
Yep. For sure.
And being at that level, you have to put in so much work too.
Absolutely.
It's never a free pass. It's people make joke. Oh, he plays video games for a living. Guy's living his life.
Oh, he's living the dream.
It is hard
life in the world.
Yeah, most people are playing the game at least 10 hours a day. So it's definitely more than a normal full-time job. So,
for sure.
You have to constantly keep up your mechanical skills, and just like there's so much more to playing a video game competitively than
absolutely
on a casual level.
And then just like you have to take in all the things that's not even in game, right? Like I would say majority of my time isn't like on the Hero League ladder. Like I research drafts all the time, right? Like I just constantly am looking at like different ways of like drafting better, or like different like Taliant is in charge of like constantly finding like rotation advantages and stuff, right? Like you're always looking for things and like doing things, even that's not just like practicing your heroes, right? So you're constantly investing your time doing different things to try to give you an edge.
Right. Well, that's really cool, actually. It's nice that you guys are, always looking to improve, as you should. If you want to be pushing towards that next level, you always have to be putting in the work, day and night. So
absolutely.
So we'll move on to close the show, I think, now. So LZ, move on to shoutouts for you, and I do have one more question.
Okay.
Will we see a Gazlowe in the finals?
I'm not gonna lie. I told in the finals of the last set, I told Glogan, I was like, if they pick these two heroes, I'm going Gazlowe. And he hovered it. He was ready. He was ready to go Gazlowe because I saw an opportunity. I was like, this actually is when Gazlowe shines. They didn't pick those heroes, and Gazlowe did not happen. But you never know. Like that's how I would put it. Like I would say that there's a greater chance you could see Gazlowe in the future than in the past, because now we actually have a 2-week break where we can practice all these we could practice stuff, right? Like we could get some pocket strategies. We could get some weird stuff coming out. Because like our pocket strategy for this tournament was actually the Thrall that we practiced, right? We found that was good, and so we're like, all right, well let's integrate that. How can we make that work, type of thing. So so I would say never say never, right?
Never
That's
say
how
never.
I'd label it. Never say never.
I'm expecting the Probius in the finals to take the #1 spot. Okay.
Just never know.
But yeah, shoutouts for you, LZ.
All right. Shout out to my team. Dak and Jor, vote on him for MVP. God player. Let's see. Taliant, of course. Great player, great friend, good shot caller. Forever learning and improving. So shout out to that guy. Be solid as a rock. Can't complain. Glogan for learning heroes that's not in his bubble of heroes and not complaining about it. So thank you, dude. Appreciate it. Shout out to my boys, Elhaim, Legend, Kwai Rice, and yeah, that's it. Just nice. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on the show so we can talk about this stuff. So, Dunk, let's move on to you. Shoutouts.
Shout out to my co-hosts today, Argy and LZ, for doing this an hour later. I appreciate it. I know it's all my fault. We started an hour late, guys. Really appreciate it. Appreciate everyone in chat hanging out. Lival being our mod every week, killing it. And thank you to everyone that comes to the streams and supports us. Following at HeroesHype or following our personal streams, it really helps. It's really encouraging to keep coming back. This is our free time. We come in, we volunteer. We love talking about the game, so it's really not that much trouble, but we do appreciate all the love. And, follow me down below at Dunkstick. I'm always talking about the Open or talking about whatever random thing. Maybe pizza doesn't need pineapple on it, but just follow, hang out. Thank you for joining us. Argy, lay it down.
Okay, first of all, pineapple should be on pizza all the time. Second, I know LZ, you said it in chat, but shout out to Kevin. He's the dude. He's the guy. As everyone knows, there's now a 2-week break for the Open Division. We will start back up on the 19th, I think. But in those 2 weeks, we will be having HeroesHype tournaments. Our amateur series will come back for those 2 weeks. So if you do want to play in a tournament atmosphere, get that practice in, for the next Open. Make sure you sign up. It'll be on the tournament website that we use, and I think it will be on our website soon. if it's not already. So look out for that. Make sure to follow me on Twitter right below, or on Twitch, same name. Make sure to follow HeroesHype, one word, on Twitter to get any updates that you need regarding the Open Division or our amateur series as well. Shout out to Liv. I'm going to put the Naz emote in chat soon. Just that's your warning. But other than that, it's always a pleasure to talk about Heroes of the Storm. And,
all right, I have one more shout out that I forgot. Got to make this one.
Go.
All right, shout out to Spagooter, the best manager ever. That's it. So I'm dropping the mic. Boom. Best manager ever. Love that guy.
High praise.
Always gets us fire scrims.
That's high praise. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching tonight, and we will see you next week.
One last thing, don't forget, we are changing to Tuesday for the next 2 weeks to make room for the HeroesHype series. So we'll be here on Wednesday, one day sooner, more to love. And we do have a special guest, a different type of guest I don't think we've ever had on the show. And it should be a lot of fun and really good information for all the open players out there. So be sure to check it out.
Yep. So see you next Tuesday. Bye, guys.